Hi and welcome to a new video, which we actually only are able to see to the inquiries of one of my Patreons. Today I want to talk about my armor, without which fights like these would not be possible. In order to survive fights like these without any damage, it not only corresponds to historical specifications, it is also modified in some areas. If you want to know what I have changed to the historical components of my armor, then stay tuned. Yes, my armor is not a replica of a real historical model that can be proved by a single source. I am not doing reenactment and trying to present a named knight of the past. I am a martial artist and filmmaker, and for this purpose I have optimized my armor for my needs. For shoots in snow, ice and rain, my armor is forged from non-rusting materials. Some of my locations are over 400 kilometers from my home base. And with your support, that could be expanded. After a long day of shooting and fighting in full armor, where I am also actor, cameraman, sound assistant, director, editor and much more at the same time, after a long day, my armor just ends up in the car boot and would start to rust. For this reason I have to use non-rusting steel. However, so-called stainless steel are very soft and would not withstand the stress of combat. The only material that meets my requirements is titanium. But let's go to my armor first. The dressing of a knight always starts from the bottom. After the underwear, the shoes of a knight are the first step. Sabatons are not part of my equipment, as I have better grip on difficult terrain. In foot duels, you also tend to keep your feet down and the risk of hurting them is low. In the battlefield on horseback, however, I would not want to do without sabatons. Let's start with the lower leg, the so-called greaves. Since my greaves are perfectly fitted to my body, they hold in place by themselves and do not slip on my feet. The edges of the ankles are covered with leather to prevent the plates from being hit with high pressure on the joints. This way I can do without thick padding and heat builds up less when I'm fighting in the blazing sun. For mud, snow and rain, my greaves are made of titanium. The next thing for me is the tight armor. Most knights of late Middle Ages would have first put on their arming doublet at this point, to which the leg parts would have been attached only afterwards. However, in order to be in armor more quickly and above all to be able to take it off more quickly, I wear my legs on a separate belt. This way I can free my whole upper body from armor. Getting out of the armor quickly is especially important when you're out shooting alone and can't get help from others in case of accidents. My knee plates are actually typical for the first half of the 15th and the 14th century. Personally, however, I like to have more flexibility, more freedom of movement. In the second half of the 15th century, from which the rest of my armor comes, such knees are only used in black armor for the common folk. Personally, however, I prefer the simple construction, which is harder to damage by most weapons. Now we came to the already announced gambeson, or arming doublet. My fencing partner Martin, you will get to know him better in numerous videos in the future, will help me put on the following parts. So, in my case, all fits now. The only part I have to attach now is to close the gambeson. To wash and care for the individual parts, it was possible to detach the arms and chain from the padding. However, if in case of war the armor had to put on quickly, it makes sense to have the parts already attached to the armor. For the time period of the rest of my armor, normally you use an arming doublet. An arming doublet is a little bit less padded, so hits will hit harder, but the weight is a little bit lower, so you have only padding in shoulder areas, or like in these places, or a little bit in the hip section, and not so much in the chest area. A knight actually wore often the chain skirt separately from the padding. This is where my armor will probably change in the future, as I plan to use titanium rings here too and get a late medieval arming doublet. Even after many years, my armor is still not finished. At this point I have to decide which collar I put on, because the collar has to sit under the breastplate. The collar depends on the helmet. Both of my collars are covered with plates to protect the lyrax from heavy thrusts. One of them only has a chainmail over it to prevent thrusts from slipping over the plates in areas where you don't want them to stick in. Danke dir. Und ich bitte dich einmal kurz zu drehen, das Ding machen fest. Ja. So the next part is a breastplate. Martin will help me again. Theoretically, it is possible for me to dress myself up in armor alone, but it is really difficult. And even with help, it is sometimes difficult to place your arms correct so you don't hindering your partner. My breastplate is made of 1.2 millimeters titanium. The backplate and the skirt with tarsets are only made of 0.8 millimeters titanium. My backplate is therefore not protected against heavy hits from hammers or murder strikes. But the skirt can resist a little bit better and tears less quickly. The overlaps can protect the body from heavy blows. Only steps between the plates can be threatening. meisten ausgeleiert ist. Vielleicht auch eins enger jetzt ausnahmsweise. In the next step I have to put on the dagger or a sword scabbard. I am equipping myself for a duel, and therefore I don't need a sword scabbard. On many historical armors knights wear leather belts on the waist, but for a quick draw the waist is too high. To avoid complex buckles on the belt, I therefore connect my dagger sheath directly to the closure of my plate skirt. Now I can draw the dagger quickly when I need it. Now before the helmet we put on the tarcher, a shield for the left armpit area. To protect me from getting stabbed in the heart. So I need... Thanks. So the axle shield, or the tarcher has a 3-strap system where 2 straps will go over my neck and 1 under my shoulder plate. For that I need half a gun. When I move, the shield will stay in place and protect me from steps under my arm or inside my arm. There are a few sources of steel shields for armpits, as in the St. Georg depictions. Most of these shields are larger than my replica. Last step, the helmet. Thanks. So, the helmet is already closed in the visor part, so I have only one job. To fit in my ears. My visor is made of 3mm titanium, but the back of my head is made of 2mm hardened steel. Even the 2mm hardened steel are still harder and more stable than the 3mm titanium. And I want my head to be protected even if I had to derust my helmet after every training session. The last piece of my armor are my gauntlets. They are not completely historical accurate. It would make more sense to depict some of finger gloves, but heavy blows could quickly break my fingers in the historical gauntlets. In mittens my fingers are quite safe, provided I don't throw them away again to draw a dagger. To dress my full armor I need around 6 to 7 minutes. If I really hurry, I could probably do it in 3 minutes, but below that I would to leave out parts. Now with spear and longsword I would be ready for a duel.